A U.S. military aircraft was observed taxiing on the tarmac at El Salvador's Comalapa International Airport, adding to a series of recent movements that analysts say fit into a wider pattern of heightened regional security operations linked to ongoing tensions between the United States and Venezuela. The aircraft's activity comes during a period in which Washington has expanded its aerial and maritime presence across Central America and the Caribbean, with defense officials describing the build-up as part of an intensified campaign targeting narcotics trafficking networks, illicit maritime routes, and regional instability that U.S. authorities argue are increasingly tied to operations originating in or passing through Venezuelan territory. While officials from the United States have not issued a statement today regarding the specific sortie or the identity of the aircraft, its presence aligns with previous deployments documented at the same airfield since mid-October, where assets including an AC-130J Ghost Rider gunship, a P-8, a Poseidon maritime patrol aircraft, and an Air Force C-40 transport jet have been verified through satellite and flight tracking data. These movements reflect continued regional posture adjustments by Washington that began in the latter half of 2025, coinciding with escalating diplomatic friction between the United States and the government of President Nicolás Maduro. In recent months, U.S. officials have repeatedly stated that Venezuelan air and maritime corridors have become active pathways for narcotics shipments, sanctioned cargo operations, and suspected covert networks. The deployment of advanced aircraft to El Salvador gives the United States an expanded surveillance radius, allowing operations to monitor corridors leading toward Venezuelan coastal waters without basing assets directly in South America. The aircraft seen taxiing today follows an operational pattern consistent with this broader strategy, a mix of reconnaissance, monitoring flights, logistical rotations, and readiness activities designed to support wider regional missions. The presence of a strike-capable aircraft such as the AC-130J in Comalapa has drawn particular attention from observers because its capabilities extend beyond routine patrol functions. Although there is no verified evidence that the aircraft has conducted armed missions, its deployment to a Central American hub is seen as an indication that Washington intends to maintain a flexible response posture in the hemisphere. Defense specialists note that the AC-130J's precision weapon systems, extensive sensors, and ability to operate in contested environments provide the United States with an asset capable of supporting interdiction operations if required. Its positioning in El Salvador does not imply imminent conflict, but does reflect Washington's desire to bolster its operational options at a time of escalating friction with the Maduro administration. Evidence gathered by independent analysts shows the aircraft stationed at Comalapa have completed multiple sorties in recent weeks, including pattern flights consistent with maritime surveillance. The P-8A Poseidon's operations have covered extensive maritime stretches in the Eastern Pacific and the Caribbean approach zone, areas known to be major trafficking corridors. Analysts say this data aligns with the United States' stated intent to track and disrupt narcotics flows believed to be transiting through Venezuelan-linked routes. Meanwhile, the movement of the C-40 transport aircraft suggests logistical resupply and crew rotation activities supporting the larger regional mission set. The aircraft observed taxiing today reinforces the conclusion that these operations remain ongoing, with no visible signs of drawdown or demobilization. El Salvador has not issued a public statement acknowledging or explaining the activity. Under existing security cooperation agreements, the United States has been permitted to use Comalapa as a support location for counter-narcotics air operations since the early 2000s. However, the current deployment marks a notable shift in the scale and type of assets utilized. Analysts point out that previous operations mostly involved surveillance aircraft focused on maritime detection, whereas the introduction of a gunship represents a significant expansion of potential capabilities. The government of El Salvador has neither confirmed nor disputed the presence of these aircraft, maintaining silence as regional observers continue to assess the implications. Tensions between Washington and Caracas have intensified throughout 2025. driven by disputes over sanctions, enforcement, governance concerns, and allegations by U.S. Officials that Venezuelan-linked networks are facilitating narcotics trafficking. Venezuela has rejected these claims and accused the United States of manufacturing a pretext to expand military activity in the region. The deployment of aircraft to El Salvador, coupled with increased U.S. naval patrols in the Caribbean, has become a central point in these diplomatic exchanges. Caracas has criticized the heightened U.S. presence as provocative, while Washington maintains that its operations are focused on counter-narcotics and regional stability. The aircraft's taxiing today indicates that U.S. operational tempo at Comalapa remains active. Flight tracking data from recent weeks shows consistent activity, including departures toward areas known to be transit routes for vessels originating near Venezuelan waters. Although these flights do not indicate direct engagement with Venezuelan forces or territory, they underscore the expanding U.S. monitoring posture and support Washington's stated objective of mapping and intercepting trafficking networks. Analysts note that these measures also serve a secondary function, reinforcing regional presence during a period of strained U.S.-Venezuela relations. The lack of public acknowledgement from either government adds an opaque dimension to the deployment. Without formal statements, observers rely on visible indicators, aircraft movements, runway activity, satellite imagery, and regional flight paths to understand the evolving situation. Today's aircraft taxiing is one such indicator, confirming ongoing U.S. operations in El Salvador and suggesting sustained mission continuity. This activity is consistent with long-term patterns of U.S. engagement in the hemisphere, but becomes newly significant in light of current diplomatic conditions with Venezuela. Some defense analysts argue that the deployment is also intended to reassure neighboring countries concerned about the influence of transnational networks operating across northern South America. The United States has increased coordination with multiple regional partners, and its expanded footprint in El Salvador aligns with this cooperative posture. While the United States has not publicly indicated that its operations target Venezuelan state entities, the strategic placement of surveillance and interdiction assets in proximity to Venezuela's maritime approaches provides Washington with enhanced ability to track developments. Observers continue monitoring whether the presence of these aircraft will prompt further diplomatic exchanges between Washington and Caracas. Venezuela has previously condemned U.S. surveillance flights near its airspace and has accused the United States of conducting destabilization efforts. As tensions persist, aircraft movements, such as the one seen today, may contribute to a broader narrative of heightened regional military activity, even if their immediate purpose remains focused on surveillance and interdiction. For now, the available evidence indicates a sustained U.S. aviation presence at Comalapa, with ongoing movements suggesting routine mission cycles rather than preparation for direct confrontation. The aircraft seen taxiing today fits into the operational rhythm documented over the past 2 months. Its activity, combined with the broader deployment of U.S. assets in the region, continues to signal Washington's intent to maintain an assertive regional posture during a period of increased friction with Venezuela. The situation continues to evolve, but today's movement provides a clear and verifiable indication that U.S. operations at Comalapa remain active and integrated into a wider regional security framework shaped in part by rising U.S.-Venezuela tensions.